Hello everybody and welcome to another A+ 1101 lesson for exam objective 5.2, this time with a practice quiz at the end focusing on this exam objective. We'll tell you everything you need to know for this exam objective, and we will then give you questions on what it is you'll need to know for the exam so you can walk in there with confidence knowing that you're ready to tackle this exam objective. Without further ado, let's get straight to it. So the first one here is the power on self-test, or the post beeps. What does this mean? Is it a postman coming to your computer? No, absolutely not. Essentially, guys, this is a test that the system runs to ensure that all of the essential pieces of hardware are there and they are working. If any of the essential pieces of hardware are not operating as expected or are not operating properly, you will get two things to let you know that this isn't happening. The first one is you'll get a visual display of what the issue is. The second one is you'll get a series of beeps. Now you might be asking, why would you get a series of beeps? It's like a code that tells you what's wrong. So if it's 7 beeps, it will be this thing. If it's 2 beeps, it will be this thing. If it's 3 beeps, it will be this issue. So depending on the number of beeps, will tell you what issue it is. You might be thinking, why do you actually need beeps if you can see what's on the screen? Well, if it's a display issue, you might not be able to see what's on the screen. So if a display issue has occurred, you won't be able to see the image. So you'll need those beeps. So you'll hear, oh, that was 7 beeps. I'm going to go look up what does 7 beeps mean during the post-test for my particular model of device. And then you can start to diagnose the issue from there. So if you're given a question that asks something to the effect of, Daniel is using his computer, but before it starts up properly, he hears a series of beeps and his device doesn't work, you would know that that is the post-test, and that's happening because a significant necessary hard drive component has failed, and he'll need to take that code to go and research what the specific issue is. That's pretty much what you'll need to know for your exam. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the blue screen of death / the pinwheel. This is the one exam objective, these two things. So the blue screen of death, otherwise known as the Windows stop error, tells you what issue your computer is having and tells you to restart your device. So basically you get a visual display, no beeps along with this one. You get a visual display. It will say, sorry, Windows isn't working. We need to do this or that. Here is an error code. And you'll essentially take that error code, research the error code, and it will tell you what the specific issue is. So again, for that, you'll just need to know that that is an issue that gives you a visible cue as to what the issue is, and you'll need to take the specific error code and look into what that error code means in order to locate the particular issue. So you'll need to do your own research relating to that. Now, the other issue that's tied in with this exam objective dot point is the pinwheel. So you'll get the spinning wheel. You can get it on Mac or Windows, either way. You'll get just your cursor will turn into a little loading symbol essentially, and this happens when the system is trying to do something, but you just have to wait. It's trying to do it, it's processing something, and it just needs you to just hold on, don't click anything. I'm going to turn your cursor into this little symbol and not let you click on anything because you just need to hold your horses and wait. Now, if this pinwheel never goes away, if it just keeps spinning and you can't click on anything, you may need to restart your system. Generally, that's going to be the first course of action because it's an easy step to take and it doesn't require you to do anything too significant. Now, why is this happening? It might happen due to a bug in an application that you were using. Maybe it's specifically to do with your application and there was a bug there. It might be to do with malfunctioning hardware as well, or slow paging to the disk. So maybe it's just trying to get something from the disk, but it's just struggling. It's so slow and it can't do it. It's taking forever. It could be any of those issues. Now, you can have a look at the console logs to gain clarification as to why this is happening. Having a look at logs will always help you clarify what the specific issue is, and then once you've identified what the issue is that's actually causing this to happen, you can move forward from there and diagnose the issue from there. We'll move on to the next one, which is black screen. This one's pretty easy, guys, pretty self-explanatory really when you think about it intuitively. You want to make sure your cables are plugged in. If your cabling isn't plugged in, your screen probably won't be displaying anything, of course. So you'll also want to make sure you have the correct input option selected. If you have it set to input 1, but your HDMI cable is plugged into input 2, you're not going to have a display. So always check those two things. Those are very easy things to check, right? So those are going to be the first things we want to check. Check the simple things first and then move on to the more advanced options. You want to make sure the brightness and contrast are set to an appropriate level. Maybe it is displaying something, but you just can't see it because your brightness or contrast is all the way down. That could be something that is happening. And if all else fails, just eliminate variables one by one, right? So maybe you'll say, okay, I'll change the cable out. Oh, we're still having the same issue. Okay, so it's not the cable, it's something to do with the monitor specifically. Okay, well, you start to eliminate the variables one by one until you can isolate the issue that's actually occurring there. So with that being said, we will move on to the next one, which is no power. If your device doesn't have any power, you'll be very frustrated, much like this guy. I don't know, his fist looks frustrated, but his face looks oddly satisfied. Very confusing there. I don't know what to make of that. So, of course, as usual, you want to make sure the cables are plugged in. Always the first course of action. Make sure the cables are plugged in. Make sure that you check the power supply with a multimeter. So maybe power is coming out, right? Maybe that's the issue. Check the individual components in the computer. If you've recently added a dedicated graphics card, it might be that your system's not getting enough power. That brings us back to exam objective 3 point something when we talked about your wattage rating, right? You want to make sure you have enough power for your individual components. If the power requirements are higher than the amount of power going in, you're not going to get your system to start up, right? Of course, that's basic mathematics. So that being said, we'll move on to the next one. That's pretty much it for there. Sluggish performance, feeling a bit snaily, things are going slow. It's working, but it's just so slow. Here are some things we can do. We can check Task Manager in order to find out if anything is using additional resources, right? Pull up Task Manager. We covered that in an early exam objective, and that can help us actually have a look at, okay, what is using resources? If there's something that's using a lot, maybe we need to shut that down so that we can free up some resources to allow us to do what we need to do. Windows could be updating behind the scenes. If Windows is set to automatically update on your system, that could slow things down as well. You could be running out of disk space. You might just not have enough space on your disk. That's going to slow you down. And if your laptop is in power saving mode, it's going to run more slowly. Of course, it's trying to save power. Just like the snail crossing the road, it can't do a sprint. It's got to take it slow to have enough energy to make it over the other side and not get crushed by a truck. And you may also have antivirus currently doing a scan, right? That can be quite resource intensive. If it's intently scanning all of your files, then that could be something that is slowing your system down. The next one is overheating. Overheating is simple, guys. If your system gets hot, there are inbuilt safety mechanisms in your devices, in your CPU, that will cause it to shut down. Hey, I'm getting really hot because I'm working really hard. I need to stop working. I need to shut off and have a break. A bit like me after I film this video. I'm working really hard. I'm going to have to go back, have a nap. That's what your CPU is thinking. So if your system is having unexpected shutdowns, it's likely going to be due to overheating. Or you also need to know that overheating can cause shutdowns to be occurring in your system. That is something you'll need to know for your exam. You'll almost certainly get a question relating to that. How can you fix it? Make sure you have enough airflow in your machine. What does that mean? Make sure cabling is efficient in there, allowing for sufficient airflow. Make sure your fans are working. And you want to make sure, of course, you have your heat management devices, such as your heat sinks, are installed properly, right? That's also, of course, very, very important. And ideally, actually placing your device in a place where there's some level of airflow as well. Like if your device is inside a cupboard with no airflow, it's much more likely to overheat too. So that's some things you can do as well. A burning smell. If you smell something burning in your device, you should immediately disconnect it from the power because that is not safe. This is likely to be an electrical problem that's causing this issue. You'll need to find out which component has failed and then replace that specific component. But the damage might be so extreme that you need to replace the entire motherboard. But essentially, you need to know a burning smell is going to be due to an electrical issue or an electrical problem within your device. And you may very well need to replace the motherboard if that occurs. So, intermittent shutdown. I've just realized if I cover the screen like this, you can still see it. That doesn't do anything. Just remember what we just talked about. What causes intermittent shutdowns? Overheating, that's right. So it's going to be due to overheating. It could be a hardware failure. Check the device manager and run diagnostics. So it could be overheating. It's often going to be overheating, but it could also be that a piece of hardware is actually just failing as well. But I'm always going to place my bet on overheating, particularly. That's the link I always had in my mind when I was taking my exam, and it got me through every practice test. It got me through the real exam, all the performance-based questions. Overheating is intermittent system shutdowns, right? Really, unless it gives you specific information like the hard drive seems to be failing, why is the system shutting down, then that's a different story. But otherwise, overheating is a safe bet, a safe assumption. Application crashes. If your application is crashing, you're going to want to check Event Log and Reliability Monitor. So these give specific information on logs that have occurred within applications, so you can see what the issue is and diagnose it from there. You might need to uninstall and reinstall the application, and maybe that could fix the issue from there. Now, if you hear a grinding noise from inside your device, it could be a loose component within your case that's kind of rattling around in there, I suppose. It could be the hard drive, and it could be that something is lodged in one of the fans. It's always best to assume worst case scenario. So if I were to hear a grinding noise from inside, immediately I am backing up my data straight away, because I'm going to assume it's the hard drive, and I'm going to want to get my data to a safe place, assuming I have data on there which I want to save. I have a lot of cat photos on my hard drive. I want to save that. I love my cat photos. I need to get them somewhere safe, right? So back up your data. Other than that, check for these other related issues that's on the screen and that we just talked about. Capacitor swelling, right? These little capacitors inside your motherboard. You can see the ones here on the left. These are swollen in compared to the ones on the right. You'll usually hear a popping noise if they swell. It's almost like they're bursting, right? So these are not able to remain installed on the motherboard. You will need to get that looked at. But capacitor swelling is indicated by a popping noise, essentially, is what you'll need to know for your exam. And then inaccurate system date or time. If every time you boot up your computer, the date and time isn't catching up with reality, that's likely going to be because your CMOS battery needs to be replaced. That's what you need to know for your exam. CMOS battery is responsible for keeping date and time up to date. You shut your system off, the CMOS battery stays on, stays charged, just for the sake of keeping that date and time updated. Make sure you know that for your exam. That way you can solve those troubleshooting issues. Time for some questions. Are you ready? Not yet. First, you have to listen to this short word from our sponsor. Hey guys, I'm just here to tell you that the A+ 1101 learning package with the practice exams, the learning guide that people are absolutely loving, and the performance-based question simulation is on sale for the next 3 days, and that is on sale for $50. So you're getting $25 off only the next 3 days. If you want that, go grab it. All right, let's go back to the questions. Okay, let's get to the questions. Question number 1. You have attempted to start your computer, but the screen remains dark and the operating system does not boot up. What will give you the information you need to diagnose the problem? A. Post beeps. B. BIOS settings. C. VGA mode. Or D. BSOD. Pause the video if you need some more time. I'm going to give you the answer right now. The answer is post beeps. Now, we went through what post beeps were, right? The key giveaway here is the screen remains dark and the operating system doesn't boot up. So it's not to do with the operating system. The BIOS settings certainly contain things relating to, prior to the operating settings, but that's not necessarily going to give you information directly in the moment as to what is causing that issue. Blue screen of death, that is Windows' proprietary thing, right? So the operating system has to boot in order to produce the blue screen of death. This question specifically noted that the operating system does not boot up. Post beeps are standard across all devices, regardless of your operating system. So post beeps is going to be the issue because the operating system hasn't booted up, and also the screen is remaining dark. So blue screen of death, we can't even see it. So that's indicating some sort of significant hardware failure too. Now, that's why we had post beeps. Hopefully that made sense to you. Hopefully you did all right. This one can be a little tricky, so make sure you're reading the question properly to identify what the issue is. Let's move on to the next question, which reads, you are working on your MacBook when your cursor turns into a spinning ball. You wait a few minutes, but after a while, you are still unable to click on anything. What is the most likely cause of this issue? A. There is a bug in the application you're trying to use. B. You have suffered from a BSOD. C. You are the victim of a DDoS attack. Or D. You forgot to connect the eSATA cable. Pause the video if you need more time, or go ahead and head straight into it in 3. Pause the video. 2. Pause the video. 1. Here we go. The answer is A. There's a bug in the application you're trying to use. We went through the issues relating to that spinning wheel, right? So make sure you are able to identify that. I'm not going to have to explain that too much. It's just a matter of understanding the content. We went through that earlier. So next question. The question reads, you are studying for your CompTIA A+ 1101 exam? That's true, you are, and are currently covering the concept of overheating. In order to fully understand the subject, you need to outline the common symptoms of overheating. Which one of the following is a symptom of overheating? A. Intermittent system shutdowns. B. A broken port. C. A grinding noise. Or D. Intermittent network connectivity. Pause the video if you need to. Answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Answer is, I hope you get this, A. Intermittent system shutdowns. If your system overheats, they will shut down. We went through that. If you need to relearn that, go back. We went over it. Next question is not existent, because now I'm going to tell you about journeydecipher.com, where I have my learning guide and my 5 practice exams. Here's what people are saying about my products. Your notes helped me pass my tests today. This is really good. It helped make everything a lot clearer. Your learning guide is actually goated. It helps with organized information. That's what I try to do in my videos and in my products. Organize information in a way that is useful to you. And I downloaded your learning guide already. I can see it will help immensely with studying. So if you want to grab those, journeydecipher.com. Currently, the whole package of those plus my performance-based question simulations is $25 off, guys. That is a steal. So if you want that, head over there, journeydecipher.com. If you don't, I'll see you in the next video. That's absolutely no problemo. Can't wait to catch up with you in the next one. Bye, guys.